The best chats are always the unscripted ones. There are interesting stories all around us, and here's one of them.
Open your eyes, spectacular's right in front of you.
Oh yeah, this is totally unscripted, so we never know where this is going to go.
Dangerous.
This is the unscripted perspective.
Turn the volume
And
up.
here's your host, Phil Parker. Phil Parker. Phil Parker. Phil Parker.
Well, hello. It is another unscripted perspective with me, your host, Phil Parker. This evening, I have a very special guest indeed. He's a friend. He's become a colleague almost. We've worked together in so many different forums as he's a PR person as well as everything else. But now we're talking about him. And this evening's guest is Jeff Haas. He is the creator of The End of All Terminus, and we're going to discuss the first edition and his newest project, which is the second part of that story. So welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I am fantastic. I'm excited. I'm just glad to have you on the show. Obviously, we've been texting and communicating for a while now, but just to have you on to talk about your creation is awesome. So welcome. So to kick us off, I think, and you've been doing a lot of things. You have your own podcast. You have all this stuff, and we'll talk about that as well. But what got you into just being a comic book artist? I know there's so much stuff going on in the world today as far as the stigma attached to certain I suppose professions and how hard it is to get into it and everything. But what really started you down the road of comic books?
I'm a second generation comic book fan. My dad was a fan of comic books growing up. When I got old enough to, I guess, appreciate them, he brought me to a comic book store, and I kind of been hooked ever since. So this is going on now for about 35 years of comic book fandom. So I think I started off with Batman and Fantastic Four. I think were my first two. Memory serves. I get hooked into Justice League America for an issue. Before that got me hit. Long story. Anyways, but eventually got sucked into a Green Lantern. I've been buying that for a long time, and the DC Universe, sometimes Marvel. But yeah, I've been a fan for a very long time.
Awesome. Well, do you remember your first comic book? Like, do you remember the first thing that you were reading? Like, what was the first, like, because I'm a Marvel geek. Like, I started on Marvel and then a little bit of DC and everything. But like, what was the first memory you have of picking up a comic book? Because obviously that was one of the bigger things, obviously, because it was the chisel that kind of broke the wall to get into what you're doing right now. So
there's a panel, like I said, Justice League of America. It was written by Jerry Conway. I think it's number 213. Can't remember. The autograph is on my wall. I just can't remember the number off my head. And there was a panel of the Red Tornado flying towards a helicopter, and for some reason that issue and that image kind of like froze in my mind of just how cool things could be in comics. It just ignited my imagination. I eventually got hooked into like Firestorm as well. Superpowers TV show from back in the 80s too. I'm sure was a part of it. Batman '89, the film, got me into it. And I don't remember the exact first comic book I ever picked up. There's been a few of them. I know my father had a video store, and he, I think it was in 86 or 87. He gave me a bunch of random comic books that he got. He was going to sell them for a little while. I remember looking at those. But I was talking about that Justice League of America issue. Just kind of blew my mind.
yeah, no, I mean, comics for me have always been a staple. I've been a reader since I was a kid, but once, I started with like just books that no images really. When I was I suppose a teenager, and then I found comics, and in Ireland, believe it or not, comics were huge. One of my good friends at home has his own comic book store. He's doing really well with it. And we would always just annoy him, go to his store, check all the newest stuff, and it would be just anything. It would be Dark Horse. It would be whatever. Like there was no real affiliation to any brands or houses, but Marvel just seemed to be the one that I gravitated towards because last name Parker, same initials as the web slinger himself. So I was always kind of into that genre, or that character, I should say. Him and Iron Man were my two favorites, and still are. So it's kind of a
Well,
funny one for me.
I had a Spider-Man phase for a while. Maximum Carnage came out. I was buying Spider-Man quite a bit. Dropped off at the Clone War. I mean, at the Clone Saga. But there's a gap between the beginning of Maximum Carnage to midway through the Clone Saga, where I was a huge Spider-Man fan, and then I kind of fell out of it when I got tired of the storyline.
Yeah,
A little while. I don't know how many years that was. It was a good, I guess, 3 years. I was hooked on Spider-Man.
Some people don't realize this, but comics it's where a lot of plot storylines and stuff originate for movie goers. Like even right now they're doing Star Wars stuff that you're just like, whoa, that would be amazing. But it's almost like they test it with the comic book audience to see if it works, and then they go, oh yeah, maybe we'll try this. Because I mean, look what Sony's doing now with the Marvel property they have. It's crazy.
Well, what basically that tells you is that even though they don't get as much respect, comic book writers are every bit as good, if not sometimes better, than film writers and novelists of that nature. Because at the end of the day, what these comic book creators are coming up with are the fuel that's fueling the blockbusters. So comic book writers should get the respect. They should get paid for what they're doing. And the thing is, there also should be cognizant when they are writing these comic books that there is someone coming around who's going to end up trying to steal their idea. Maybe they can somehow work a contract out about it or something. But there's genius in these comic book writers. So many of them.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And you can go through a lot of the graphic novels, I suppose. Like I stumbled upon a little comic book store in Oregon here, and it's just a small little store at the beach, near the beach or whatever, and I was just blown away with the stuff he was holding on to and what he was pushing, and the different houses that he had and everything. And I feel like mainstream media and everything is almost overshadowing where it's all coming from. Like the stories that come out of these houses are incredible. And then you just have Netflix now, Amazon Prime, like all these big streaming networks that are like almost just waiting for the next hot property to go, hey, I love this End of All Terminus from Jeff Haas. I'm going to go grab that. We're going to make it into a show or a movie, and then boom, there it is. Is that now the big goal for writers and comic book creators? Or
That's a rough question. I'm trying to answer it probably as politically as possible. The purpose of writing comic books should be the art of comic books. That should be the goal of being a comic writer. However, every comic book writer is probably going to tell you, whether or not they're going to admit to it or not, the best way to finance their comic books are to have someone turn it into something. That's where the money is. That's the difference between being someone who writes comic books in their spare time to someone who quits their day job and starts writing comic books. Right. It is a goal, I think, for a lot or a hope that someone picks it up in a different, picks up the property, buys the rights to it, and gets it made, so they can. Basically, it's insurance that your title will now complete. You complete your story because now the money's there to complete it. Though if you ask the hardcore people, they'll say no. The goal of comic books is the comic book art itself, and it should be on some level. But let's face it, if there's not one writer in the world who even the ones who say that, if Hollywood came knock on the door and said, "Hey, we'll give you $80,000 for the right to your title to make a film out of it. Are you interested?" I don't think they'll even let them finish. They'll be like, "Are you? Yep. Signed, done, handed in." Most people are going to take the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about you for a second, because you've got this great podcast as well. That, to be honest, I haven't I haven't given enough justice to in the past. And because we had arranged this, I started watching a lot more. I've seen some of the guys that that I actually like, when you have a good guest that I'm going, oh yeah, he's cool. I'm gonna watch it. But you're a great writer. You're a great artist. You're also a really great interviewer and just down to earth, nice guy. What is it like for you as a goal? Like, is this end of all terminus? What is the like? I've read the first edition. It was epic. Like, there's so much to it. But what is the goal for this story? Have you got like 2, 3, 4, 5? Like, is it mapped out, or are you just kind of seeing where it leads?
It's mapped out for the most part. I mean, there's enough. I know how the story ends. I know the final scene of the entire story. I know how the last issue goes. I know some of the beats are going to get me there. I'm leaving enough open for the story to kind of guide me a little bit on what happens with the story. But the skeleton is completely there. The ending, like I said, is totally there. The main beats are totally there. It's a question of some of the nuances, how will the nuance play, which characters may come to life a little bit more than others, which ones will maybe push the story slightly in a direction, and I can kind of massage them back into the skeleton. But the goal is complete the series, complete the story, and get to that ending, which I think people will be really excited by, or at very least it will be something that I don't think they've seen before.
Right. I mean, I think what's great about this as well is the story has a lot of substance to it. And then you found like the artwork that goes with the story. And a lot of people kind of water that down when we talk about comics, because the art is always given a lot of credit, and the art in this has a lot of credit, but the story coupled with that, it's almost like a knockout punch. What Where did you find this artist? Tell me a little bit about that, like, journey, about the first you were creating this comic book. Like, tell me about that journey for a second.
Believe it or not, in many ways, the artist came before I really started writing the comic book. I had the idea in my head. I think I wrote the skeleton of it, but I wasn't really convinced that I could find an artist or even afford an artist to complete the story. So it was kind of something I was just kind of like off in the background, like a goal of mine. And there's just a lot of Facebook. I'm in so many Facebook groups because I do my publicist job and I do my promoting of my podcast. So I'm in Facebook groups all the time, a lot of indie comic book groups. And he was posting his artwork and I saw it a few times. And then time went by and I saw it again. And I decided, screw it. I'll send him a message just out of curiosity. You're not signing a contract or anything. I'd be like, hey, are you interested in this? What would it cost? Blah, blah, blah. And surprisingly responded. And he was like, yeah, I'm in. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm gonna write this thing now. And I decided to go ahead with it, and I was glad to find him because unlike some artists, then I don't want to slam artists. There's a lot of artists who just do the job, which is great. It's credit to them that they're doing it, because some don't do that. But a lot of them will just do the job and they kind of walk away from it. It takes a special kind of artist to be part of the promotion process, to care enough to actually put the work in, to push the comic book, to try to get readers to the comic book, to do a little extra work that it takes for free in many cases to part of the promotion. He did the background I have behind me, he did for the Kickstarter to put on that, the page. I didn't pay him for that. It's something he just wanted to do to help out with the project to make sure it got made. And it takes a certain kind of special kind of artist, a certain kind of team member to go that little extra mile and be part of the process, not just someone who's doing the work as an employee.
Yeah, no, they're hard to find. I'm not gonna lie, like, they're really hard to find. So let's get to the meat of this sandwich here, because we're here to promote the end of all terminus. Tell me about the story first of all. So let's not give away the obvious, the second issue kind of thing. Let's talk about tell me a little bit about the story, where it came from, what it's about.
Okay.
For those who haven't been lucky enough to actually read it or have have the creator send them an email with it in the email.
There's okay, so there's some pseudoscience gobbledygook involved, as all good science fiction has. But basically, if I'm going to use any kind of pseudoscience that's involved, the idea is that a lot of astrophysicists are arguing that at some point in our far future, what's known as what we think is called dark energy will become stronger than dark matter. And eventually, everything will pull itself apart, including the very atoms and that everything that's crazy, even the energy that itself, till they call the big sleep, when everything kind of goes dead in our universe, and the universe completely dies. I took that concept and said, all right, well, let's say it pulls apart, but let's say it pulls apart in fabulous step fashion. You know, the explosion, things tear apart, but it basically we're at the point where the universe is going to, in fact, die. That being said, there's 7 sentient species that come together through various means, as we'll explore later in the series, and they board the terminus with the idea that there is an escape from the universe. There is a boundary to our universe, though it's hypothetical to them, even to us as well, but even to them, there's a hypothetical that they think there is one, and if they can escape out of the universe or beyond the border, there's safety there to whoever lies outside our universe. And the story is that what happens to these 7 sentient species who all have very distinct cultures, very distinct perspectives on what is right and what is and what's important, and they have to try to survive each other just as much as they have to survive the big the Great Rip and everything else in order to try to survive their species. Let their species survive and get out. That's kind of where the storyline goes.
Wow, it's almost so from reading it, it's almost like a sci-fi version of Noah's Ark a little bit.
Yeah, in many ways. There's an aspect to Noah's Ark. There's an aspect of a little bit of Battlestar Galactica.
There was a lot, yeah. So I got a lot of Battlestar Galactica. Now that you say that, there was a lot of. It was almost like a nod every now and again, and it was just to me the story was well. It's very very strategic. So I can, as I'm going through it, like there's a plot. There's no. It's direction all the way. It's very well written.
Thank you.
But also there's a very definite plot to it, so you're not like getting lost in, sometimes I read a comic book and it's almost like there's too much dialogue, there's too much going on, and you're just getting lost in this stuff that's irrelevant to the plot. So you were very very strategic in that, and it shows. It's a really good story, and to be fair, when I'm reading this, all I'm going is and I hate to say this, but because we were just asking that question, but I'm just thinking, shit, this would be a great show. Like, oh my god, because I'm a Star Trek mania geek.
Yeah,
Like,
same here.
I'm this just Star Trek all the way, and I'm just thinking this would be epic, either as a movie series or as a show. It would just be absolutely epic. But that's kind of the point. Like, the story is so good that it could be kind of drawn up in many different media, and I think that's a good credit to you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, the goal is to the hardest thing to do with introduction, especially with something that's science fiction or anything that's beyond the norm, is to try to create exposition that doesn't feel like exposition, to try to create a story that doesn't get bogged down in world building, but still gives enough of world building to make it entertaining. And that's kind of what I was going for. And just Star Trek influence. There's characters that are definitely borrowed from aliens from Star Trek, like the Getadakians are definitely Klingons. I don't care. I'll admit it. I'm stealing an idea from Klingons. And the link, there's a Borg aspect to the link to some extent, the hive mind aspect. You like every good writer, you steal what is good. I mean, the if you want to go back to the ideas, the Iliad, the Iliad and the Odyssey with Homer, he didn't steal it from somebody else because it was one of the first novels that we know of, but he stole it from apparently some aspects of history. So those stories were being told, and he stole it and he made it something of his with, probably some flourishes like the gods being in there and stuff like that. But every good story rips off something good and goes, yeah, but what if I did it like this? And my story is, I love Star Trek. I love sci-fi. And what if I did it and just made this little twist on it and explored some ideas I wanted to explore?
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, like, isn't that kind of how everything originated? Ed Sheeran just went through it with music. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, it's not plagiarism. it's almost like you're inspired by this. You've made a version of something, but you know what? The story is very much your own, and the art is very much its own, and it's just a great read. It's a great read. So tell me, like, the creation of this. The first issue obviously has already been released. So if anyone's interested, definitely we're going to put links and everything in. I'll make sure that we share that before the end of the show. Um, but how has it been received? Because you're obviously making a second one, so obviously it wasn't that bad. But how has it been received thus far?
Yeah, I got some good reviews on it. Like I said, the first issue did well. Obviously, the second issue has already been funded, which is nice. A little slower than I was anticipating, so I'm kind of hoping for a bigger, hit on the second one than the first. But it is what it is. But people are enjoying it. So the reviews are good on it. Uh, there's a lot of positive reviews, especially for the covers. That people are loving the covers as well. And I think people are going to love the second issue more than the first, because I think the second one is now, as the ball has gone rolling a little bit more, and now you're kind of being dived into the story. And I think they're going to be surprised by the ending of the second issue, and what comes after this is going to be even more interesting. So I think we're on a good path. It's just, it would be nice if we got some more backers. So backers, show support, and they start at like $2, $4 for both. So go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a minimal investment really, and you can give as much as you can afford. And that's really the point of this as well. Is like, you know, your work is really really good, and but the thing is that you can only do it if you can fund it. And so,
Yeah.
those who are watching either live or later on, because this is going to be on YouTube forevermore, like definitely look this up. We're going to put the links in and everything after, but definitely go and donate as much as you can. Like, at the end of the day, the more, if you love this, if you love sci-fi, if you love comics, if you love the story, go and read the first one. Go and read the first one, and then you're going to be bought in. You're going to want to know what happens next. It's
Mm.
just how it goes. So moving on to the next question I have for you. What is the hardest part of writing this story, or a story for you? Like, is knowing that you're going to have to get backers and all that kind of stuff. Is that something that's always in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I mean, every good comic book writer needs to also be a marketer on some level as well. And you're going to be a little cognizant of that. I mean, there's certain things that you would think, if I never had to worry about money, I could write it this way, and let the story be told even longer form, pace it a little more. When you're writing for backing or writing one issue at a time, you do have to think about that when you're writing. This story has to be good enough and exciting enough, and it's all this one issue that makes someone want to buy the next one. So you got to got to make sure you hit your cliffhangers. You got to make sure you have a certain level of pacing, because you got to get them to want to go ahead. If money was never an option, I could just write for my own fun. Just be some of this stuff I would be probably expanding upon, stretching it out a little bit more, delving more into some of the philosophy of the characters, a little more of that kind of stuff. But you can, because no one wants to listen to 24 pages of just straight dialogue. So you got to make it, friendly. So there's a little bit of a give and take in that area. And then there's the idea of knowing that you're going to have to push it. And then there's also the anxiety involved with thinking, what if I can't fund it, or what if I don't fund it enough, or is there a point where there won't be enough support to keep my story going? So there's always that little part of your brain that thinks, I'm thinking 10 issues or 5 issues, 10 issues ahead. But what if I don't get there? What am I going to do about it? There's some stuff as a writer you kind of worry about, and a lot of writers maybe are like me, and they're just anxious people to, But the thing is, I would urge fans, because I think a lot of fans, they complain about, all the stories are the same, or they're just redoing the old stories. If you want something different, you want something unique, you don't need to support the artist who's already been published like 1,000 times. It's indie communities where the new ideas are going to come from. So if you care about the comic book industry, you care about new ideas and new voices, it's the indie community that you got to try to support.
Yeah, agreed 100%. I think as well as that, talking about, thinking about the future and writing and everything. The biggest thing for me, when I when I talk to writers, and you've actually sent a few of the guys that I've had on more recently, but when I talk to writers, it's always the, you know, I'm doing it for fun. I do it because I enjoy it, but I also kind of want success out of this. So it's like I want to be successful. So there's always that nerve, like that nervous energy where it's like, God, I made this. I'm putting it out in the world. Like, here it is. And then, oh God, I hope they like it. And so
Yeah,
there's a
I
bit of
mean,
that too.
you're every time you write anything, let's face it, what you write comes from deep within you, right? As a writer, it comes from your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas, your hopes. Everything that's part of you goes into your writing, right? It has to because it's fundamentally you on paper. And there's a chance, yeah, there's a chance that somebody will pick it up and go, "Oh, your feeling, thoughts, ideas, all that are crap," and this you're no good. You're just like, "Oh, well, shit, it took this many hours to write, and this is my bunch of my stuff
It's
inside
like,
it, and
oh
now
wow,
apparently my feelings are crap. That's not good." So yeah, I mean, you're exposing yourself. You have it's like every issue is like an exposed nerve that has a chance to have some pain attached to it, where
yeah,
it's going to hurt, could potentially hurt. And I mean that's part of it as well. And yeah, comic book writing is fun. I want my ideas out there, and it's fun to write it. But I don't know if this is right, not say right, but I'm not writing just for myself. I want to write it so for other people to enjoy it. And if I find that people are not enjoying the story, then there's no point in continuing the story. If I'm not writing just for myself, I know the story. I don't have to write it for myself. I already know what
yeah,
happened. I write
yeah,
into
yeah.
bring my ideas to other people and have them enjoy it. And so there's always that feeling that what if happens if they don't, and then your idea doesn't go forward or shouldn't go forward, and that's a concern as well. So yeah, it's the life of a writer is hard. There's a lot of yourself that you pour into it, a lot of your money you pour into it, a lot of your time, your energy, everything else, and yeah, it's you're putting yourself out there, and there's always that chance that it's going to hurt. So it is what it is.
What do you think about this new wave of I don't know if you've come across them as much as I have, but the apps that are comic book apps, and instead of going to buy the comic, it's like that Apple stuff where you don't have to, it's like the Kindle books and all that kind of stuff. Are we in the era now where I don't get to open the book and smell it anymore? I have to, because these brick and mortar places are closing down. Amazon seems to be taking over the world. It's like, are we are we in that era now where it's like it's going to be more digital, or what do you feel about that? And what do you feel like can happen for the comic book world if digital is the new forum for us?
I'm a fan of hard copy comic books. I have right in front of me a pile of ones that I've just finished reading. I'm all into the physical comic books. Um, But from a writer, indie comic book perspective, the nice thing about digital is that it's cheaper. I don't have to pay for printing. I don't have to pay for shipping. It's a lot cheaper. So there's an ease to it, and that's why they're so much cheaper on a campaign. Like they said, my PDFs are you get first one and two for a combined $4 and no shipping. It's cheap. It costs more money to ship and print. So there's obviously some benefit from any standpoint to that. That being said, I buy print. I will, I'm happy with print. I want to feel it in my hand, the comic book in my hand. I don't like buying the digital versions of these things, though sometimes I have to for my other gig because I don't have time to run to the store and buy the comic book. But I don't think physical comics are going to go anywhere. They're going to shift how they're sold. Hopefully, there's still comic book stores around because I used to love going to them when they were available to me. I don't like I said I don't think they're going to go anywhere, but digital will hopefully just reach a larger audience who can't afford to go to a comic book store, and maybe they will be cheaper for some fans. So there'll be a place for both. I would say Mark Twain. The news of my death and the great resignation. People have been saying death. The comics are going to die for so long, and physical books and physical comics are going to die. They've been saying that for years and decades. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. It'll just be probably just delivered differently.
Yeah, it's more like an evolution, I guess, is kind of what's happening right now. And yeah, the only reason I brought that up is I literally, before I was just having a drink before I started this, and like four apps, because Facebook listens to everything you do now, so it's like four apps just start pinging on my phone. I'm like, oh, okay, weird. And it's almost like yeah, it's so much easier to do that. But then it's a subscription and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm a hard copy person myself. I've always collected comics. Um, and I hope to bestow this onto my little boy and my little girl as well, because comic books are great, books in general and reading. But yeah, I'm okay if it's a digital copy, I guess, iPads and all that kind of fun stuff. But so um, tell us a little bit about, because we've talked about the comic. Um, tell us a little bit about your podcast, because I want to give that a little bit of airtime as well, just before we kind of get to the end.
All right. It's the Traversing Stars podcast. You can find me on YouTube and now Megaphone and Apple Podcasts and Spotify and a bunch of other things. You can Google it, I'm sure.
Yeah, the usual.
And I a couple times a week I interview a celebrity, TV, film, comic book, or novelist. That some usually you've heard of quite often. It's not always, but sometimes you've heard of. And and I've been doing it. I'm in my 2.5 year point of doing this podcast. So I'm closing in, hopefully, on the big 1,000 subscribers, hopefully by my third year. And in my third year, I'll be in my third year. So I'm kind of excited by that. And yeah, so I mean, if you think of if you like Star Trek, there's plenty of Star Trek guests I've spoken to.
Yeah, no, I've been binging on those. Yeah.
Yeah, if you like comic books, there's plenty of comic book people that I've spoken to. And yeah, it's an enjoyment. It's a nice. I like to talk to creative people about creative things. That's kind of what I've been doing.
That's, I mean, to be honest, I just love what you're doing anyway, just because the people you're having on. But it's such an easy watch. It's a great listen. I definitely recommend it. It's just a great show. I to be honest, because it's similar to what I'm doing, it's kind of like, oh man, this guy's doing it really well. I want to have famous people like he has. You know what I mean? I'm just like, crap. How do I get there?
Sometimes it's nice to name drop and just feel good about the names that I've got. But
right.
I would say it is much harder slog than people might seem like, hey, you got these people on, blah blah blah, it must be fantastic. It's like, yeah, but to get that one guy, I sent out 100 emails. I got people said not no to me 99 times for that one guy that I got. So it's a lot more no's than yeses, but it just looks good on paper when you see the names.
No, that's it. It's, you never remember the yeses. You're grateful for the yeses, but you really remember the no's. You know what I mean? Like I've been just blasting out emails, and sometimes I think, is it something I said? Like, do I just sound too desperate? Like, is it that bad now? I'm like a stalking woman, or fella trying to get a lay half the time.
You never know what the thing is that's going to turn someone off from working with you, either the first time or the second time. I mean, I remember this one podcast that I did. This episode, it was organized by Amazon. They Amazon Prime. They came to me and said, "Hey, you want to interview these people?" And I'm not gonna say no to Amazon. I said, "Sure," But they're like, "Okay, but you only have 15 minutes to do the interview. 15 minutes max. That's it. Could we have people coming after you as well? That you're part of the whole press junket." I said, "Okay." So at the 14-minute part, the guest goes, "Oh, that reminds me of a story. Can I tell you the story?" And I made the mistake of going, "Well, I do got to go in a minute because I have, because that's all the time I have. But you're welcome to come back another time." And apparently, they were not happy about that. They got that the person didn't. I was trying to say, "Well, you told me only had 50 minutes," but apparently the proper protocol is to just go over and screw the people who are after you. So, you never know what that one little thing that's going to piss someone off.
I've to be fair, I've had a few of those as well. Like, it's just one of those. I've been very, very lucky. And to be fair, I say I haven't had famous people. I've had a bunch. I'm just jealous that you have certain people that I'm super geeky over. You know what I mean? So it's always like the grass is always greener. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, it's a sometimes I'm shocked by who comes on the show. I'm like, really? Are you sure? Okay. Welcome.
Yeah, what?
Come on over.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, I'm high-fiving all the time. It's great. So let's get to the meat of this. What is the link for anyone that wants to?
All right. You want me to? I can open it up real quick and post the link on it.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, for sure.
All right, give me 1 second.
Feel like we should have elevator music or something for this, you know?
I think it's gonna work. There it is. That's the link for Kickstarter. So yeah, back what you can. Uh, physical copy is cool, digital cool, all 6 variant covers cool. Whatever it is, just keep in mind you're supporting something that is someone is passionate about, and yeah,
Yeah, so
support
I
it.
mean, this just to highlight this even more, guys. Jeff is a great guy. He's I mean, go and watch the Traversing the Stars podcast as well. You're gonna fall in love even more. But the reality is that this project can't keep going without your support. And we're not talking about thousands, even though if you have thousands, he's not gonna say no, right?
Feel free.
Um, yeah, I mean, sure, whatever. But click on the link, donate what you can. You know, it's for the production of this continuing storyline. And of course, go out and get an issue, read it. If you love it, then you're just contributing more. By buying and supporting indie comic book artists. That's the biggest thing I have to say about this. And so the link is going to be on the show, pretty much on all the comments, but I'll also make sure that it's posted many times on my Facebook page as well. So if you've missed it and you're listening to this in the car, or you're watching it on YouTube and you can't click on the link, it will be on my Facebook page for sure. Do not panic and don't crash your car. That's I have to say this every time because a lot of my people listen and watch sometimes in the car. So it's like, Jesus, don't just like veer into a ravine just because you wanted to try and support. It's just crazy stuff.
But that
Um,
does happen. Please take that moment to stop and support. Right? I mean,
yeah, yeah,
you get insurance money coming. You're good. You're
yeah. I
good.
mean, it doesn't matter if you're late for work; it's all good. Um, so before we finish up, just to highlight a couple of things. The second issue is releasing when?
The campaign will end on May 4th. It will be shipped by September. I know that's a long window, but the artist has a day job, and I can't ask him to quit his job for
Yeah, yeah.
a little pay, unfortunately.
It's a great time to it's a great date. I love the date. May the 4th be with you. Yeah,
Agreed.
100%. I love that. Nod to the great sci-fi show. But yeah, that's awesome. So May 4th is when this releases, or when the campaign is over.
Campaign
And
ends May 4th.
yeah. And then anyone that wishes to purchase it after the fact, same route.
I'm not sure. Kickstarter apparently is doing a thing now where they're going to allow you to continue to buy it after that fact. I'm not sure how that's going to work from my standpoint, because I'm not sure just how that's going to work from a strategic, like how to do print runs if everything's already been printed for like one guy who bought one extra issue at some point.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to work. But basically, to buy the hard copies, the physical copies, you're pretty much got to you got till the campaign's over. At that point, I might be at one convention or two conventions. I might be able to send you a digital copy as to you, but physical copies, pretty much when the campaign's over. I don't have a website, so that's kind of what's
Yeah,
that.
maybe we need to get you a website. Just
Sure. I mean,
saying.
I'm sure people for free will design them for me and put it up for me for free. Free is fine if anyone wants to do that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, so guys, definitely 100%. Please come out and support this amazing artist. He's a great dude, as I keep saying, but honestly, the artwork is fantastic. It's in his background. You can see the just how detailed it is and awesome. It really is amazing. Read the first issue was phenomenal. But please support. This will be restreaming on LinkedIn. So if you missed it, um, I'll definitely have it on LinkedIn, but also it is on YouTube forevermore. So again, if you're in the car and you top out, it'll be there. It's going to be on pretty much everything I stream to. So, Jeff, thanks for coming on, dude. I mean, it's a kind of a shorter episode just because, you know, number one, you're East Coast, and I hate the East Coast is the hardest thing for me because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm surprised you're even awake. The other side of it too is it's very much, I could talk to you about every guest you've had on your show. I could talk to you about how great, you know, you are and everything. But the reality is we really want people to push their funding towards this. So that's the main focus of this today. So thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. You're just an incredible guy. The artwork that you have on this is just phenomenal, but the story is epic. So keep writing, dude. No matter what happens, keep writing. So for everyone that is watching, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for tuning in. This guy is Jeff Haas. Jeffrey Haas, if you're Googling him, because for some reason there's too many Jeff Haas's out there. It's really weird. But definitely the link is here. So thank you again. And we'll have another wonderful guest next week. But until then, peace out. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to leave us a rating or review on your favorite listening platform.
Be sure to keep in touch with us on Facebook and Instagram at
The Unscripted Perspective.
Or you can visit us at
www.theunscriptedperspective.com.